So welcome to Wild Treasures of an Outdoorsman. My name is Peter Updike, and you have found yourself in the studios of Wild Treasures of an Outdoorsman. And tonight, we're going to take a quick glance. I want to welcome you. Spring gobbler season is almost right on us, and I'm getting excited. I see that the youth hunt is already underway, or at least it was last weekend. And I saw a couple of youth had got their bird, and I'm real happy about that. I watch a few folks from down in South Florida and down there in the southern part of the state. Some of them are already, again, youth hunt, turkey hunting. So that would mean that the season could be opening up in some of the management areas in South Florida this weekend. And if you were wanting to go turkey hunting this weekend, I believe spring gobbler season will be opening up. Let's just look here real quick. Spring turkey season, February 24th and 25th for the youth hunt. That was this weekend, right? And March 2nd through April 7th. So, if you want to go turkey hunting, it looks like to me that this Saturday it's going to open up. Quota permits are required for the Addition unit and Bear Island unit, but the rest of it is wide open. See, they don't say that. See, if you go to the map, you'll see Turner River unit. This just north of Highway 41. I guess that's US 41. It's 30 miles out of Naples. It's way on down there. But it's a big area, and they've got Corn Dance unit and Deep Lake unit, and then Loop unit, Stair Steps unit, and Bear Island and Addition unit. According to this, of course, you'll want to go on the brochure and do your homework, but are the only portions of that require a quota permit. So get on down there and go turkey hunting if you want to go for early season turkey hunt. It's a big area. And, I'd like to make the trip down there one day. Don't need a quota permit. Pack your bags. We're going. All right. So, if you don't have a quota permit, if I applied for my quota permit every year, and I got, like, the third weekend in April for Ocala National Forest, I don't know what happened. Usually I get the first or second hunt. And if I apply for a rich loan first 9 days, usually I'll get that, and I got none of those this year. So I am going to be going to an open quota hunt. Yeah, my goal for this spring gobbler season is to kill a gobbler in an area that does not require a quota permit, because I got no choice in the matter. I didn't get a quota permit for opening weekend or any first 9 days hunt. So I'm kind of out in the cold, like some of you that didn't apply for a quota permit at all. And it sneaks up on us because they come due during deer season, the early portion of deer season. They come due and we're doing something else, right? We're not paying attention, and we don't apply for our quota permits. So, if you didn't get one, you're not alone. Again, I applied for mine, but I still got somewhere in April. I got to check the thing. I think it's the second week in April, which is towards the end of the season. I don't know how that happened, but okay, I could have turned the thing back in and got a point. I might have should have done it, but I didn't, and I wasn't paying attention to that either. And if I had turned it in and got a point, well, then that might have helped me for next year. But we're talking about this year, and I want to go turkey hunting. So there are a handful of management areas that you can hunt that don't require a quota permit. One of my favorite ones, in addition to the Big Cypress, which is opening this weekend, there is the Osceola National Forest is my first choice. If I can get on up there to the Osceola National Forest, that'd be where I'd go. Now, there are no Osceolas in the Osceola National Forest, in my view. It's all eastern birds, right? So, but you know what? I don't care. I don't know who came up with the idea that one species, they've got this fangled thing, you need to get a slam and all this kind of stuff. Turkey hunting's turkey hunting, especially on public land. You're lucky to get one at all. So, I don't pay attention to that, and I don't care. Jumper Creek's open without a quota permit, and Lockaloosa is open without a quota permit. Both of those are within driving range of my home, and there's a handful of others. Now, just a real quick tip: if you're going to go to the smaller ones like Jumper Creek or Lockaloosa, I'm pretty much decided I'm going to go to Osceola because it's big, it's got lots of access, and you can get away from other hunters. If you see there's a hunter in an area, you can get away from them. And yeah, it's worth scouting. I'm gonna go scout it out. But the smaller areas like Lockaloosa and Jumper Creek, yeah, if you go to those areas and you see on the brochure and the map brochure, and you look at the map and you see that it's 10,000 acres, right? Keep in mind that with Jumper Creek and Lockaloosa, that much of that habitat is unhuntable. That it says 10,000 acres, but in reality, it's maybe 5,000 acres. If you go to Jumper Creek, and I'm not discouraging you from going, if you want to go turkey hunting in those smaller wildlife management areas that don't require a quota permit, know that you're going to pack a little bit of patience and courtesy and friendship in your turkey vest, okay? And know that you're going to be in the company of other hunters. You're going to see other people. You might hear gunshots, and you may not hear a turkey gobble. If I go to Jumper Creek, sometimes I'll intentionally wait for the middle of the week. Sometimes I'll even go around 10 o'clock in the morning and just take my shotgun for a walk and go quietly. I heard birds gobbling this weekend that absolutely thrilled me, but they also surprised me. And the birds that I heard gobble this week were in places that I wasn't expecting. And yeah, it was awesome. And so I have found me some birds. But again, I've got to wait for my quota permit to kick in. And I don't know that there'll be that many people hunting in that area, but you never know. It's just nice to know there are some mature birds out there already gobbling. I got some turkey calls here. These are all my box calls. Look at this one. I got a box call. Both of these, let's see, all of these are custom made, given to me. I gave this one to my buddy Kelly. He passed away, and his daughter gave it back to me. So thrilled to have that. And I've got this one here that I had made for myself. It's got a gobbler on there. A guy named Ray Tompkins made both these calls for me. I met Ray. We went hunting together. And yeah, he made both these calls for me. He's a custom turkey call maker. And I got this one for a gift. This one's made out of orange wood. It's pretty nice. It's got the slate material on the back of the paddle. Kind of like that. And then I've got my old standby. This was the first box call I ever owned. It's a Lynch box call. Man, look at all them notches I got on that bad boy. Man, I killed a lot of gobblers. I go turkey hunting, and I don't stress out over whether or not I'm going to kill a bird. I've gotten to the point in my life where I just want to go and have fun and just enjoy being in the woods. And I really am content with knowing that I help somebody maybe get their bird. In other words, stayed out of their way. There are certain things you don't want to do for new hunters. One thing you never ever want to do is move closer to a bird that you know somebody else is calling to. If you hear a bird gobbling down in the woods, and you're tempted to try and get closer to that bird that's gobbling, and you know somebody's calling to it, yeah, it would certainly be all right for you to plop down where you're standing and see how that unfolds. Because let's face it, public land birds don't readily come in. Sometimes they circle around, right? Sometimes they're not going to come in at all. Sometimes they gobble at everything you throw at them, and they never come in. And many times a bird that's gobbling at everything you throw at them is not a good sign. You're calling too much many times. I've killed birds in both scenarios. I've called too much. Yeah, I do that too. But I'm learning that soft and subtle is way more than loud and obnoxious, okay? And the loud and obnoxious sometimes turns birds off. And yeah, one practice that want to practice, one thing I want to practice while I'm in the turkey woods is just to listen, and if I hear other hunters or know that other hunters in there, just to steer clear from them and see how it all unfolds. Okay, and that's my advice to you as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about something that's been laying heavy on my heart. When I turned 60 a few years back. I'm going to be 64 this year, and I'm counting down those days. Actually, I'm still in the years. I got a year and a half left, maybe a little more than that, I'll be able to exercise my exempt status, and we're going to do a video on that one day, probably when I become an exempt hunter. That means I won't have to buy a hunting license anymore. I won't have to buy a management area stamp. I can hunt in some places without a quota permit if I'm an exempt hunter. An exempt hunter means, in my case, will be 65 years of age or older. And I'm not really looking forward to it, but it's a fact of life. And if I make it that long, and I believe I will, I'll be moving forward. And when I turned 60, I lived early in my 20s a troubled early adult life. I got into some trouble when I was in my late teens. I made a lot of bad choices, and I made them quickly and without any regard to lasting consequences, regardless of the outcome. When I say the outcome, I mean starting a family at a very young age and things not working out the way I'd planned. And one thing right after another created an atmosphere where the early years of my 20s, even in my late teens, were wasted. I shouldn't say wasted, were experienced, okay? And in a negative light. I have a lot of great memories, but some of those choices that I made had some pretty heavy-duty consequences to them. And when I turned 60, I thought, you know what I'm going to do? When I turned 60, I said to myself, I'm going to reclaim my 20s. I'm going to reclaim my life that I lost in my 20s. I'm going to hunt a little more, I'm going to fish a little more, and I'm going to get some of that time that I lost back. And have you ever heard the old saying, if you want to hear God laugh, just tell him your plans? And that's kind of my experience that I had. When I turned 60, the timetables began to turn. In my late 50s, my dad started getting sick. My dad started to slow down, and he slowly began to slip with dementia and Alzheimer's, and his health faded. And I had to go take care of him and check on him every day. And one thing led to another, and this thing just kind of snowballed. And of course, I loved my mama and I loved my daddy, and I wanted to be there to take care of them. But something has to give, right? And what gave was my 60s, my early 60s. I had to sacrifice a lot of my time. I was accustomed to hunting all I wanted and to fishing all I wanted, with, of course, keeping my wife and my family in mind, making sure that I don't neglect my duties here at home. But all of a sudden, these other things were added to it, which, how can I sit in the woods knowing that my wife is taking care of my mother while I'm hunting? Well, I can't do that. I did it, but once a week I was able to take off on Thursday, and I hunted for maybe 3 or 4 hours. This went on for 3 years, and three seasons, and my spring gobbler seasons all suffered, and it's okay. Such is life, right? And if you haven't experienced it and you've got parents, well, buckle up, because it's gonna come your way, and I'm sure that you will rise to the occasion, like I tried to rise to the occasion myself and do the right thing. Eventually, as I moved forward through this experience, my father passed away, and I had to deal with that. And then my mother was living on her own all of a sudden for the first time in her life. She was living by herself, and she very heroically was able to manage for a little while, till eventually she had to come live with us. So she lived with us for a little while. A little while turned into 2.5 years, and it became a real issue. and my brother helped out all he could, and my sister helped out all she could. And I really was thankful to have a brother and sister to help out. But the fact of the matter was that Mama spent most of her time here until it was time for her to go to a place where they could take better care of her than my wife and I could do. And we had to make that hard decision. And we did. Long story short, Mama went on to be with the Lord. And it was about, 6 months after we decided that we couldn't take care of her anymore. And I'm going to tell you, if you struggle with that, whether your struggle is well-founded, but I'm going to tell you, those people are more professional, more capable, and my mother was far better off. The first week my mother was in that nursing home, and we'll call it a nursing home, it's a bad term for it, because, man, she learned so much about herself and friendships that she made, and we went and saw her every day that we could, and at least every Sunday, every Wednesday, we went to check on Mama. And she went on to be with the Lord October 31st of last year. And I am still recovering from that experience of taking care of my dad, taking care of my mom. I had to go over and clean out the whole house that they lived in. They rented a house for, 10 or 15 years, and the place was just stuffed with items that they had accumulated down through the years, books and brochures from church, and just Tupperware, and just the old furniture and all this stuff we had to deal with. And the whole point is that I didn't get my 60s, my early 60s, and reclaim my 20s because life called. And as I reflected upon that, I reflected upon my mother, again, who passed away on October 31st of last year. And I thought I would tell a story or two, just 2 stories on my mother that are fishing related. My mom and daddy did not hunt or fish. I learned the outdoor lifestyle from my grandfather, who fished. And we enjoyed fishing together, and he taught me the art of casting a line. And I'm very grateful for that. But just to share, we lived not too far from a freshwater lake. We lived on a bay, and it was salt water at the bay, and inward the lake was a city park that was freshwater. And my mother took my brother and I down to that lake to do an afternoon of fishing. That was a community atmosphere. There were a lot of other people there at the at the park, and we were fishing. And I suppose the year was probably, I'm gonna stab a guess at it, was probably around 1967. I was probably 7 years old, maybe somewhere in between 6 and 7 years old. My brother was a little older than me. My brother was 5 years older than me, so we could say that he was maybe 11 or 12. Anyway, I remember my mama, we were fishing, and I remember my mama coming to pick us up. And I remember a kid had tried to cast a line and got a hook stuck in his eye. Anyway, it kind of freaked me out, and I could see the hook hanging off the guy's eyelid. And I remember going through a chain link fence gate to the parking area where my mother was. And she was in the car, and she opened the car door, and I said, "Mama, the boy down there has got a hook in his eye." And she just, my mother was a dramatic person. Nothing was simple. Everything was complicated. Everything was a catastrophe. You got to address the issue and see what you can do to fix it. And she ran down there and saw that little boy. I don't know, he's probably the same age as me, with that hook hanging out, and had the fishing pole in his hand and the hook in his hand. He was squalling like crazy. And she scooped that boy up and put him in the car. And I guess I can't remember my brother going with us, but I remember my mother taking that boy to her doctor. And I remember the doctor's name. The doctor was Dr. Rasha. But we had no cell phones back then. I don't even know if there's even any payphones, but she put that boy in the car and kidnapped him and took him to the doctor's office where they got the information from the kid. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. That nowadays, yeah, that sort of thing just wouldn't happen. But that's exactly what my mama did. She rose to the occasion. She scooped that boy up, didn't know who he was or who his parents were. If there was anywhere nearby, maybe they were just across the street, right? Who knows? I don't know how that all unfolded, but I thought it was kind of an interesting story to tell on my mama. There was one other. Again, we also lived near a bay, and I used to walk down to that bay or ride my bicycle down to the place called the Beach Club. And we'd be down at the Beach Club, and I remember discovering that bacon makes a fine fish bait. I catch fish on bacon, and I remember going into the refrigerator and getting a couple of slices of bacon and going down to the Beach Club, and they had docks and boats and piers and all of these, like a boat club, and I could walk out and fish. And I remember catching at least 20 blowfish and putting all those blowfish in a bucket and somehow getting those blowfish home. And I remember skinning out all of those blowfish. They don't have scales. They're just a little tail, and I don't even know if you can really eat those things. But I caught all those blowfish, and I skinned out and cleaned everything. And I remember having all of those. They weren't fillets. They were just little sections of tail meat, and I had them all laid out and told my mama I wanted her to cook these blowfish for me. Well, she wasn't about to cook those blowfish for me, but somehow I ended up with a fish dinner. I remember my mama saying, "Here you go," and eating fish sticks. And I don't know what happened to those blowfish, but she did make the attempt to cook fish sticks, and I believed they were blowfish. So that's my mama. Again, yeah, there are many other stories I could tell about my mama, but those are the two that set in my mind that are fishing related. So yeah, small boy fishing. Well, great memories. I'm sorry I lost her. I'm sorry about that, my mom and daddy, but that's just the way life is. Okay, so yeah, spring gobbler season is coming, and I'm excited about it. I hope that you get to go to remember, hunt in the management area closest to your home, and you'll be able to build upon your experiences with a place that you can visit often. Well, think about it. I might just go to Jumper Creek. It's so close to my house, and just prepare to run into some of you. All right, love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye.